backing for the quilt that I'm about to do, and I want to make sure that my backing is bigger than my top. So what I'm going to do is fold my backing in quarters. And obviously for this little teeny weeny quilt, I can just throw it on the floor and make sure it's bigger, right? But for a king size quilt, that can be really hard. So I'm going to fold it together in quarters. So I've folded it twice. And that makes this point down here the center of my quilt. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure I don't have any pleats in it anywhere, so I can really make sure that it is bigger. And I'm going to lay it over my long arm. Then I'm going to take the top that we're going to quilt on with that backing, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fold it in quarters. Right, so got those two corners together. Grab the other two corners, fold them together. And then this is the center of my backing, or my top, sorry. So I've got the center of my backing right here, and the center of my top. And I'm gonna put those together and then match up my quilts. So what you can see with this is that I have a good 3 inches on this side and that side, which equals 6 inches longer than my quilt. So what I'm looking for is to have at least 3 inches on every side, and this shows me that I have that with this quilt and that it's going to be easy to load and easy to quilt. I would do the same thing with my batting, making sure my batting is larger than my top. I'm not concerned with my batting being the same size as my backing. I just need it to fall somewhere theoretically in this 3 inches, or it can be even bigger too, to be honest with you. But you want to make sure it's at least bigger than your top. So I want to make sure that I'm loading my backing on square, that I'm actually loading it on so that the warp and the weave are straight on my frame. So I'm going to do that by grabbing the 2 sides that I want to pin onto my leaders, and I'm going to work them back and forth. If they are way off, you're going to see some diagonal pulling. I can see it on my side. I'm going to make it happen on your side as well. Okay, there we go. See those diagonal lines going up and down the quilt? I don't want that. Whether this is, 40 inches wide, which is what this little piece of fabric is, or it's, wide back, you can do this the same way. You just get the edges together and work them back and forth, and you kind of shake your quilt to make sure it's hanging nice and flat. So I'm going to actually move my arms across. If I was doing this in the real world, I'd be doing them way out here and working it back and forth and kind of shaking the quilt or the backing to make sure that it falls nice and flat. Once I do that, I pin where my fingers are. So I'm going to grab a pin and pin the 2 layers together, because I know that it's straight at these 2 points, right? Okay, so I have the 2 layers pinned together so that they're flat. Now I can come all the way out to the edges, and it doesn't even matter if the edges are the same at this point, because I'm making sure my center is right. I can just fold them together and find the center of my quilt. And I'm going to mark the top, both of the layers. So I'm going to pull these apart a little bit so I can get inside there, right, and mark the outer fold, or the outer, and then I'm just going to grab it and pull them apart completely so I can get the inner one. Okay, so this is the center mark for both the top and the bottom of my backing. Now I can take the 2 pins I used to keep it straight off of the quilt, and I'm ready to start loading.